The Stonehenge is a prehistoric monument in Wiltshire, one of the most recognizable monoliths of the late Neolithic period, built some 5,000 years ago.
On a windswept plain in southern England stands a monument that should not exist. Stonehenge has puzzled historians, engineers, and archaeologists for centuries. More than 4,500 years ago, massive stones weighing up to 30 tons were transported across vast distances and arranged with astonishing precision. Some of the smaller bluestones came from the Preseli Hills of Wales, over 200 kilometers away. Even today, moving stones of that size would require detailed planning, specialized equipment, and careful engineering. Yet according to the official explanation, Stonehenge was built using ropes, wooden sledges, stone tools, and human labor. Mainstream archaeology has held that position for decades, but recent analysis has revealed something far stranger. The monument is not simply a ring of stones, it is a geometric system. Every major stone position appears connected through precise mathematical relationships, solar alignments, and sight lines that remain accurate thousands of years after construction. The more researchers examine the layout, the less it resembles a primitive monument, and the more it resembles a carefully engineered design. Before we uncover the extraordinary patterns hidden within these ancient stones, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the discovery you're about to see is unlike anything most people have ever heard about Stonehenge. Modern survey technology has mapped Stonehenge down to the millimeter. Artificial intelligence systems analyzing these measurements recently identified patterns that human researchers had overlooked for generations. These patterns repeat throughout the monument with a consistency that should not exist by accident. The arrangement appears deliberate, calculated, and based on knowledge that historians struggle to explain. In the next several minutes, you will see what the stones reveal. Why modern computers can identify the design principles hidden within Stonehenge, but cannot explain how its builders acquired the knowledge required to create them. And why one forgotten archaeological record may contain clues to a system of measurement unlike anything previously identified in prehistoric Europe. This is a mystery that has remained hidden in plain sight for centuries. Make sure you stay with me until the very end, because what follows may completely change the way you look at Stonehenge. But here is what makes this story even stranger. In 1964, a detailed survey of Stonehenge recorded hundreds of measurements relating to stone positions, angles, distances, and astronomical alignments. Most of the data was archived and largely ignored. For decades, researchers focused on individual stones rather than the monument as a complete system. The records remained buried inside archaeological reports that few people ever examined. Then, decades later, researchers digitized the measurements and fed them into advanced pattern recognition software. The results were unexpected. The program identified repeating geometric relationships connecting stones that no longer even exist. Missing positions could be reconstructed with remarkable accuracy. What appeared at first to be a simple prehistoric circle suddenly looked like part of a much larger mathematical design. The evidence breaks into three components. The first is transportation. Some of Stonehenge's stones originated hundreds of kilometers away. Moving such massive blocks required planning on a scale rarely associated with prehistoric societies. Every stone had to arrive at exactly the right location before construction could begin. The second component is alignment. Stonehenge is famous for its connection to the summer solstice, but the geometry extends far beyond a single sunrise. Multiple sight lines correspond to recurring astronomical events. The placement of the stones appears to encode observations gathered over long periods of time. The third component is the most difficult to explain. The builders left no written description of the system they used. No instructions, no measurements, No surviving record explaining how the monument's geometry was designed. The knowledge appears in the stones themselves, but nowhere else. And then comes the discovery that changes everything. Because when researchers compared every surviving stone position against modern astronomical simulations, they found something extraordinary. The monument was not merely aligned with celestial events. The arrangement preserves mathematical relationships so precise that they can still be measured thousands of years after construction. And that raises a question nobody can answer. How did a society without metal instruments, without written mathematics, and without advanced surveying equipment create a structure whose geometry continues to challenge modern researchers today? The stones remain silent, but the measurements do not. Every structure built by human estimation contains errors. Tiny deviations accumulate over distance. A line drifts. An angle shifts. A measurement changes by fractions of a degree. It is unavoidable. It is the physical consequence of building large monuments without precision instruments. Think about drawing a perfect circle across a football field without modern tools. The farther you go, the larger the error becomes. Small mistakes multiply into larger ones. Stonehenge should show those errors. It doesn't. The technology that allowed Stonehenge's builders to position massive stones with astonishing geometric precision simply vanished, leaving us only the monument. The suppression of the evidence runs in 4 directions. The first began thousands of years ago. Whatever knowledge system guided the construction of Stonehenge was never preserved in a form we can read today. Unlike the civilizations of Egypt and Mesopotamia, Neolithic Britain left no written records explaining how the monument was planned, surveyed, or constructed. If detailed instructions ever existed, they disappeared long before recorded history reached the British Isles. What survived was the result. The method vanished. The second suppression came through the destruction of the landscape itself. Stonehenge was never a single monument. It was part of a vast ceremonial complex stretching across miles of countryside. For centuries, farming, construction, road building, and natural erosion altered the landscape around it. Ancient earthworks were flattened, burial mounds disappeared, processional routes faded into the terrain. Every lost feature removed another piece of information from a system researchers are still trying to reconstruct. The third suppression occurred during the earliest archaeological investigations. Antiquarians documented the visible stones, but much of the surrounding landscape remained hidden beneath the ground. Without aerial photography, laser scanning, geophysical surveys, or satellite imaging, investigators could only study what they could see on the surface. The measurements existed. The patterns existed. The larger design remained invisible. The fourth suppression may be the most significant. It comes not from destruction, but from interpretation. For more than a century, Stonehenge has been presented primarily as a ceremonial or ritual monument. While there is little doubt that ritual activity occurred there, some researchers argue that this explanation has overshadowed another possibility: that Stonehenge also embodied a sophisticated system of measurement, astronomy, and landscape engineering. The moment a structure is categorized exclusively as a religious monument, questions about the practical knowledge required to create it often receive less attention. Now here's where the mystery deepens. In recent years, laser scanning projects have generated billions of data points across Stonehenge and the surrounding landscape. Artificial intelligence systems have analyzed relationships between stone positions, earthworks, burial sites, and astronomical alignments. Hidden structures have been identified beneath the soil. Long-forgotten pathways have reappeared in digital reconstructions. Features invisible for thousands of years are becoming visible again. The scans exist. The measurements exist. The geometry exists. Yet the fundamental question remains unanswered. How did people living more than 4,000 years ago coordinate the knowledge required to design and build a monument whose mathematical relationships remain detectable in the age of artificial intelligence? Every new survey reveals additional complexity. Every new discovery expands the scale of the puzzle. Instead of making Stonehenge simpler, modern technology appears to be making it more mysterious. Because the more precisely researchers measure the monument, the less it resembles an improvised prehistoric construction, and the more it resembles the physical expression of a deliberate plan. A plan whose creators left no written explanation. A plan whose methods have disappeared. A plan that still survives in stone. The builders are gone. Their language is gone. Their calculations are gone. Yet the design remains. And after more than 4,000 years, Stonehenge continues to confront modern researchers with the same unanswered question. What knowledge did its builders possess that allowed them to think on this scale, plan with this precision, and create a monument that still challenges our understanding today? The first begins in the Roman period. When Roman writers encountered ancient Britain, Stonehenge was already thousands of years old. The original builders were forgotten. The monument's purpose was unknown. Later, chroniclers replaced missing history with myths of giants, wizards, and supernatural powers. The real knowledge behind the monument disappeared beneath legend. The second suppression came through time itself. Throughout the Middle Ages, many of Stonehenge's stones collapsed or were removed. Pieces were taken away. Earthworks eroded. Critical sections of the original landscape vanished. Every missing stone erased information about the design. Every lost feature removed another clue about how the monument functioned. The third suppression occurred during the earliest archaeological surveys. In the 18th and 19th centuries, investigators documented the visible stones, but paid little attention to the wider landscape. Hundreds of surrounding features remained buried and unrecognized. The measurements existed. The geometry existed. The connections remained hidden. The fourth suppression runs through modern archaeology itself. In 2020, advanced computer analysis of Stonehenge's layout revealed geometric relationships that extend far beyond the famous stone circle. Researchers identified alignments connecting the monument to surrounding earthworks, processional avenues, and astronomical sightlines. Yet despite increasingly precise digital surveys, no consensus explanation exists for how prehistoric builders designed and maintained such accuracy across generations. Now, here's where the mystery becomes impossible to ignore. In recent years, researchers have used advanced laser scanning technology, ground-penetrating radar, and AI-assisted pattern analysis to examine Stonehenge and the surrounding landscape with a level of precision never before possible. Millions of measurement points have been collected. Every surviving stone has been mapped. Every angle, distance, and alignment has been recorded. Hidden structures buried beneath the soil have been identified. Ancient pathways invisible to the naked eye have been reconstructed. For the first time in history, researchers can study Stonehenge not as an isolated monument, but as part of a vast engineered landscape stretching for kilometers in every direction. The scans exist, the data exists, the measurements exist, and yet the most important question remains unanswered. What system of knowledge allowed people living more than 4,500 years ago to design and build a monument whose mathematical relationships can still be detected and verified by modern computers? Let me be clear. I am not suggesting that the builders of Stonehenge possessed computers, satellites, or modern engineering software. The monument does not require those conclusions. What it does require is an explanation for the extraordinary precision that remains visible today. The geometry is measurable. The alignments are measurable. The astronomical relationships are measurable. The output is real. What remains unknown is the process that produced it. Stonehenge is aligned with the movements of the sun. The famous midsummer sunrise alignment has been recognized for centuries, but modern surveys have revealed that the monument's design extends far beyond a single astronomical event. The placement of stones, the orientation of the processional avenue, and the relationships between surrounding earthworks appear to form a coordinated system that required careful planning across generations. This was not a monument that evolved randomly over time. It was built according to a design. The result still stands on Salisbury Plain. The instructions do not. The monument preserves the outcome, but the method itself has vanished. What makes this even more difficult to explain is the scale of the project. Some of Stonehenge's blue stones originated in the Preseli Hills of Wales, more than 200 kilometers away. The larger sarsen stones weigh as much as 30 tons. Transporting them required organization on a scale that challenges conventional assumptions about Neolithic society. Yet moving the stones may have been the easy part. Positioning them with such consistency and maintaining the monument's geometric relationships over centuries of construction may have required an entirely different level of knowledge. And that is where the mystery deepens. The earliest phases of Stonehenge remain among the most sophisticated. The original builders established the fundamental alignments that define the monument to this day. Later generations modified and expanded the site, but they largely preserved the original framework rather than replacing it with something more advanced. That is not the pattern we normally expect. Technology is supposed to improve. Knowledge is supposed to accumulate. Methods are supposed to become more refined over time. Yet Stonehenge appears to preserve the opposite story. The core design emerges suddenly in the archaeological record, already functioning according to principles that continue to fascinate engineers, astronomers, and archaeologists today. The builders clearly understood something about geometry, landscape planning, and celestial observation that allowed them to create a monument capable of surviving thousands of years while retaining its essential design. Then the knowledge disappeared. The builders are gone. Their language is gone. Their methods are gone. No written manual survives. No technical instructions survive. No explanation survives. Only the stones remain. And every new survey seems to raise more questions than it answers. Ground-penetrating radar continues to reveal hidden features beneath the landscape. AI systems continue to identify patterns that were previously overlooked. Archaeologists continue to discover that Stonehenge was part of a much larger ceremonial complex than anyone imagined a century ago. Yet despite all of this new information, the central mystery remains unchanged. How did a prehistoric society coordinate knowledge on such a scale? How did they preserve measurements across generations? How did they maintain geometric precision without written mathematics as we understand it today? And perhaps most importantly, where did that knowledge come from? For more than 4 millennia, Stonehenge has stood silently beneath the English sky. Empires have risen and fallen around it. Entire civilizations have disappeared. Languages have been forgotten. Religions have come and gone. Yet the monument remains. The alignments remain. The measurements remain. The geometry remains. And every new discovery brings us back to the same unsettling possibility, that the builders of Stonehenge understood far more about their world than we have ever given them credit for. The stones themselves may never tell us how they were placed, but the patterns hidden within them continue to ask the same question they have been asking for thousands of years. Who were the people capable of imagining something like this? And how did they do it?